there were things that they taught us, for example, in social studies. Do you remember social studies? What did they teach you in social studies? So some of the basics I remember, concepts like the Bill of Rights and other good things like that. Uh, the reasons for the American Revolution, right? Freedom of speech. Those are good ones. Basic civics, right? All those things. People were told that, and that's what I was very surprised when, by the time I became 40, I had friends on the blue team in America who, because blue team stood for nullification of basic rights, became anti-free speech, anti-right to bear arms, against everything. That was what the team was against. So it didn't make much sense, and how easily they suddenly became enamored of socialist and communist ideas. That was one of the things they tried to teach us, at least in Reaganism, starting in the 1980s, how the U.S. beat communism, right? We outlasted them. The fall of the Iron Curtain was a great thing. But somehow people suddenly became, it would be good to try these ideas, maybe, didn't make any sense. Didn't we get past that? Didn't we learn that? So they weren't supposed to be legitimate political philosophies, and instead they told us it would be the keys to societal downfall. Remember the dominoes? Okay, one country after another. So it seems that they hadn't learned anything. And one of the things that we learned about in social studies was about presidential elections and the spoils system. You know what anybody out there in TV land knows what the spoils system was? The American spoils system. The spoils system, if I remember correctly, was that when a new presidential administration comes in, the president cleans house of all the ministries, the various secretaries of this and that, and he puts in his men. That's the spoils. Okay? You change the executive, you're going to change a lot of the executive branch, right? Do you remember this? No, they didn't teach you. Where'd you grow up? Probably some German country, right? Yeah. People from German countries don't know about these things, the spoil system. So what happened was
It's the same elsewhere.
Yeah, it's the same elsewhere. So what happened is suddenly they were reacting as though Trump is using the spoil system, which every president until this time done, and the reaction is ridiculous. You didn't know this was like suddenly it's a bad thing. Suddenly it's something we have to get rid of. Okay.
The president was even assassinated over. Garfield was assassinated because he didn't give the right
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
support.
Yeah. Thank God we don't live in those times now. So, and because that Obama precedent, what did Obama do? He started with the whole executive actions, executive orders, right? So every president now becomes a dictator. Dictator on day one, right? Every president just throws out everything. They were laughing because Trump threw out Obama's legacy, right, day one. And they did that with Biden. And Biden did that to Trump. That's what they're doing. Why are they reacting now? They've been doing this silly system now since 2009, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay. Where this is the fourth time it's happening. So why are they reacting like this? So yeah, I think I like it that they overturned those suicidal gazeros. I wish we had something like that in this country. We could have so much groundbreaking change. Okay. But here's the problem. All the good that he might do today can be overturned by the next Democrat loony in 4 years. Okay? So there's a biblical precedent for this. Where do we see this in the Bible? Once someone came in and overturned what the other guy did. It started with the reigns of the later kings of Judah. Okay, the last century and a half or so. What happened? Well, first of all, they didn't change their kings about every 4 years. I think the reigns go as Achaz was king for more than 20 years. So was Tzidkiyahu. Menashe was king for a good 55 years. Son Ammon was king for very few. Yoshiyahu, and then his sons, was topsy-turvy going on there. What happened was Achaz was the first of the Judean kings to have a real religious revolution. He couldn't care less for God worship. He was really wicked. So he was the one who turned over what was in the Beis Hamikdash. He brought in foreign worship, had his Kohen build an idolatrous altar in the temple, right? Menashe would eventually go farther. But Achaz really did a lot to try to destroy classic Judean Mosaic religion, right? So what happened when his son became king? We said there's a deal. The way a lot of Mefarshim understand it, it says that King Chizkiyahu, on the first day of the first month of his reign, in the first year of his reign, right? Wait a minute. If it's the first of Nisan and it's the first year of his reign, the day before that would have been the last day of Adar. That would have meant that the next day would have been the second day of the second year of his reign. It means he became king on the first of Nisan. He's the first king who actually starts on Nisan. The first king who's seriously recorded, explicitly recorded that his first year started on the first of Nisan. Normally, a king takes the throne, even Adar, that's already 1 year is up. Okay, so what did he do? He repudiated everything his father stood for, especially in the religious department. Because I'll say he even disgraced his father's own corpse, right? So that was a major turnover. New king in town, new policies. We're throwing out everything. What did Menashe do? Menashe took over as a teenager from his messianically righteous father. What did Menashe do? He overturned everything. So he went back. Menashe's like, we're going back to idolatry. This is going to be so bad that the Gezerah of the Churban is going to be sealed now during his reign. Achaz was much he was much worse than Achaz, his grandfather. Right? They compare him to Achav. The Nevuah compares him to Achav. It says, you did exactly, now you're going to get the Mishkolet of Shomron and Beit Achav. This is the worst. Right? And what happened? His own son was assassinated afterwards, but then Yoshio took over, and Yoshio made a revolution that was throw away everything that Menashe had stood for, even though Menashe made, according to the Book of Chronicles, he did repent somewhat. There had to be a major cleanup that they had to undergo. By the way, concerning Yoshio's days, this is it's confusing in the Book of Kings. It says that Yoshio made his major reforms when, I think it was the 18th year of his reign. What happened? They discovered the Sefer Torah. They decided to refurbish the temple. That's when they discovered the Sefer Torah, which is open to a bad prophecy. And they consulted with Huldah, the prophetess, who told them basically, that God is getting ready to destroy this place. You're familiar. And what happened? So, got to fix everything. And it also says that part of that fixing everything in the Book of Kings was that Yoshiyahu went and cleaned out the idolatry elsewhere and throughout the land of Israel. He was the de facto ruler of even the northern lands that had previously been occupied by most of the 10 tribes. So he was the one who finally cleared out what was going on in Beit El. The institution of Yeravim's worship, with the golden calves, the bamos that were there, that was only destroyed by Yoshiyahu. It survived the 10 tribes being taken to Golis. So that, which is described in the Book of Kings as taking place as part of his reforms after discarding the Sefer Torah, in the Book of Chronicles is actually 6 years before that. Yeah, they did discover the Sefer Torah, but that's after he cleaned out every place of all the Avodah Zarah, including destroying these bummas. Just a side point. And when Yoshio passed away, there was a little bit of a succession crisis. They put in his son Yehoachaz, who was not his oldest, to be king. That's the popular one. But the Pharaoh took him away. So Yehoiakim became king. And what did he do? He went to making everything wrong again. Bring back the idolatry, bring back the bummas, the bloodshed. Every king, every major regime change results in also a religious change. And the struggle continued in time to Tzidkiyahu, and he couldn't really do much to stop it, and that's when we get to the Churban. Okay, what are you going to do? There's something actually very interesting. The Mefarshim deal with a difficult pasuk. I'll show you this one over here. That I think they're forced into saying it not like the Pshat, because if you say it like the Pshat, it doesn't make the Kohanim and Levim look that good. It makes it look like their motives weren't exactly pure at the beginning. What am I talking about? You know what I'm talking about? No? Okay. Rechavam became king after Shlomo. He lost his most of his kingdom. He was going to go to war to take it back. But the Navi came and said, nope, it's from God. God says, this is from me. Don't go to war. And the people listened. They backed off. No war. There's hostility. We don't like them, but there's no war. What happened afterwards? So it says, Rechavam started strengthening his own kingdom, building up the fortifications around his major cities, and stockpiling food and weapons. Good. Okay, that makes sense. Doesn't seem to be saying he was doing the wrong thing about this. Wanted to stabilize himself. Who else came to join him? It says, the priests and Levites who were throughout Israel. Hidyatzavu alav mikol gvulam. They stood beside him from all their borders. That means they left where they were living. Remember, where the Kohanim and Levim live, 48 Levitic cities throughout Eretz Yisrael, even Aver Yarden. But after 500 and something years of living there, what has happened? They realize, oh, we got to go. We have to be centered around Jerusalem specifically. We'll go to the kingdom of Yehuda. The Levi cities south of that line between Ephraim and Binyamin, they could stay put. They're already in the land of Yehuda. But everybody who lives north of that is coming here. Why did they come? What does it say? The Levites, this includes the Kohanim, left their migrashim. Those are their lots and their holdings. This is described. A Levitic city comes with just the residential area and open area around the city and area for little fields, little agriculture and their flocks. But they don't own the rest of the land like the rest of the tribes do. Right? Three-way machlokas in the Rishonim. They show the Rambam Shita, the Ramban Shita, the Rashi Shita about how exactly that land is divided up. How big is the area around? What?
Machlokas in the Mishnah.
It's a machlokas in the Mishnah, and it's a machlokas how to interpret the Mishnah. Okay? So it's a Mefurish art scroll. Remember this from 40 years ago. No, not 40 years ago, 35 years ago. When the art scroll Stone Chumash came out. They had a good picture. You know the Stone Chumash? That used to be the Chumash. I haven't seen it in years, though. Compared to Australia, you don't see these things. So the guy with all the art schools behind him. So they left. Why did they leave their Quranic cities? Get this. It says, Kiz nicham Yeravam uvanav mikahin la'Adonai. Yeravam and his sons had pushed them aside from officiating before God. Somehow Yeravam and his sons made it hard for the real Kohanim and Levim to do their job. The next pasuk says, Vayamed lo Kohanim labamoth v'lasirim. This is mentioned twice in the book of Kings. Yeravam set up his own Kohanim, his own priests, for his bamoth, for his high places, and his seirim. Those are satyrs, these goat demons they started worshiping. They're mentioned, by the way, in the Torah in two places. And for his golden calves. That's also. Yeravam basically started a new priesthood. Okay. And Levites, by the priesthood, I'm using the general word. Levites and Kohanim make what we would call in English a priesthood, and it's divided. Kohanim have certain rules, and Levim have certain rules. Fine. So Yeravam and his sons basically made it that the Kohanim and Levim couldn't do their jobs. Instead, Yeravam and his sons were appointing people, like King Aviyah is going to criticize Yeravam in the next chapter. He tells him, you don't believe in the Kohanim and Levim anymore that God chose, which is patrilineal. Anybody who comes and pays the fee and goes through the ritual becomes a Kohen to your non-God. At the beginning, it says that Yeravam made himself one of the priests. Right? He was the first guy to step on the altar to offer sacrifice. And the Navi came and stopped him, froze his hand. And afterwards it says, Yeravam continued doing this. He made Miktzot Ha'am. Some say Miktzot Ha'am means his big shots. Others say Kitzot means the edges. Anybody wanted to. Even the rabble could do it. Either way, wait a minute. Is the pasuk telling me that the Kohanim and Levim initially thought that they deserved to have the priesthood, Yeravam's new system? And then what? But Yeravam said, no, we're not doing that Shlomo Melech thing. David HaMelech was the one who set up the system of Kohanic Mishmaros and Levitic Mishmaros, right? 24 and 24. We're repudiating all of that. We reject all of that. So rejected the Kohanim and Levim. So instead, he brought in his own people. But the Shaila is that's what the pasuk says. Yeravam and his sons made new Kohanim, a new priestly class. We don't need the tribe of Levi anymore. So the tribe of Levi left Yeravam. The problem with this interpretation, which by the way is the one that's given where? In Hamiyuchas L'Rashi, attributed, the commentary, the 12th century commentary attributed to Rashi. Rashi did not write a commentary on all the Masechtas. Rashi did not write a commentary on all the books of the Bible. So when you open up certain Masechtas, it tells you it's Rashbam. It's someone else. It's not Rashi. And you can tell it's not Rashi because it's more verbose, right? You open up the so-called Rashi on Divrei Yomim, they print it as Rashi. It's quoting the Rikara, who was born after Rashi died. And I think so. And it uses Yiddishisms instead of French. Like, tells you how you say it in Laz, and it's obviously this is, Old German and not French. because it was written in Germany in the 1200s. Okay, so it's not Rashi. By the way, but it's printed as Rashi. He points this out. This is pshat. The problem with this pshat is what? It tells you that Levim at the beginning were willing to go along with Yeravam, like many people described in the end of the Masechus Sanhedrin. When Yeravam came up with his religious reforms, what was one of the things he needed? Legitimacy, right? Ostensibly, Achia Shiloni and other sages had their signature on his reforms, right? Do you think Yeravam would actually tell you to worship idols? Of course not. We're showing our allegiance to God's chosen king, right? So people, Victor Miller writes a lot about this. People went along with the Yeravam thing because it had ostensibly legitimacy. It had the endorsement of great prophets. Achia Shiloni. So there were many, according to the way you understand this pasuk, which doesn't add anything to psukim, the Levim and the Kohanim had the Havamina that they're going to continue being the Levim and Kohanim in Yeravam's system. But Yeravam rejected them. Yeravam and his sons. No, we don't want you. We're going to make our own people. We're more egalitarian now. So what happened? Then they left and they joined. They went down south to Rehavam's kingdom where they could keep their jobs. Because this doesn't reflect well on the Kohanim and Levim, the pshat I just gave. Others like the Mitsudos and I think Rabag say, no, it's that they left Yeravam because Yeravam allowed them to go to Jerusalem. He was basically saying you can't go to Jerusalem to serve as in Shlomo's temple. So so that's it. He basically gave them one-way ticket. What they wanted to do was go up to Jerusalem twice yearly and on holidays to do their job. But because he didn't let them do that, they just said, "Fine, we're just going to go permanently." But I don't think that's pshat. You know why? Because it says Yeravam put guards to stop people from going toward Jerusalem. I would imagine it would be along the same lines as the Berlin Wall, which was a joke. Why? Because when the Soviet puppets put up the Berlin Wall between East Berlin and West Berlin, what was the real reason for doing so? To keep people from fleeing the communist eastern side, the red side, to the free side, the western side. That was what it was really there for, because that's what everybody wanted to do. No one wanted to be in the godforsaken communist side. But they claimed, oh, it was for the protection. We're doing it for ourselves. But of course, no one ever tried to sneak to the east side. People only tried to get through to the west side. So too, if Yeravam had a serious interest in using his police force to stop his subjects from going up to Jerusalem, I don't know if he would have let them make one-way trips either. Okay? Because then you can't stop them from coming back. So I don't think that's pshat. Others say no, he revoked their rights to receive the tithes and the truma. That's what it means. Because they were no longer getting truma and tithes, and the meiser, so that's why they had to leave. They realized they were no longer willing. The problem with that pshat is it doesn't fit what's explicit in the verses. The verses seems to say that the Kohanim and Leviim had been rejected by Yeravam and his sons because Yeravam and his sons were using other men as their Kohanim for their new religion. Okay? So I think the pshat is like the non-Rashi. So as I tell you, sometimes when you have these crazy ideas enter Judaism, at the time, Yeravam's worship was, the reigning religion closest to Judaism. Rav Shach's joke. What is the religion closest to Judaism? I believe I'm not anti-Chabad necessarily. I believe Orthodox Judaism is the religion closest to Judaism. What do I mean by Orthodox Judaism? Because all the different branches of Orthodox Judaism, which try not to do averos, ignore mitzvahs. Okay? Mainstream Haredi Judaism has written out the temple. It's assered it. Okay? Like Rabbi Chait said this week. How could there be an avera to go to the temple now? It's a mitzvah. It's a straight mitzvah. That's how you keep the Torah. So he's saying the avera of going to Eretz Yisrael. There's no such avera. That's how you keep the Torah. So mainstream Haredi Judaism is very close to Judaism, the Orthodox part of Haredi Judaism. And religious Zionism is like that also, except it worships the state. Instead of just seeing the state as another welcome event in Jewish history, like the Maccabean revolt and the Purim miracle, it was a healthy way. No, it's something sanctified. We pointed out, the Torah says, the Talmud understands the Torah saying what? God gave you commandments. So if your dad and mom tell you to violate the Torah, don't do mitzvahs or do averas, what do? You don't obey, right? You're supposed to obey your parents. Your Rebbe tells you, don't obey the Torah. Do you obey your Rebbe? No. The king, God's anointed, King David tells you to violate the Torah, don't keep the mitzvahs, or do averas. Do you listen to King David? No. The answer is no. Your parents can't tell you not to keep the Torah. Your dad doesn't want you to wear tefillin, you wear tefillin. Okay? So this is also regarding the king. But isn't the king the commander-in-chief of the Jewish army? Ideally, halachically speaking. King David is also the head commander of our army, right? So if you're one of the soldiers in his army and he gives you an order to violate the Torah, what do? You say no. Yet, right when the war started, 2 days in, I was getting to a heated argument with statist rabbis here. Said, sometimes you have to disobey orders. No, you can't. Suddenly, King David can't obey. Your parents, you can't obey. Your Rabbeim, you can't obey when they tell you to go against the Torah. But the IDF commander, who himself is subservient to someone in the chain of command who's not higher than King David, somehow or other, now you have to. Which makes no sense. If only they had taught all the soldiers these commandments, maybe the soldiers wouldn't have retreated. Okay? Yes, to destroy your enemy, that's good. But then to surrender territory. This is the terrible thing, what Trump said. The Israelis are going to win the war. They have to risk their lives for this thing. And then we'll take the territory. How are they going to take it? They're going to fight us for it? They're going to threaten us? Are our soldiers just going to go along with this? It's an avera. When the time comes and the IDF really has to pull out, give up the Gaza Strip to the Americans, the mitzvah, the test will be, are our soldiers going to go along with this? Are they going to put up a fight? If the Americans come with 2 million soldiers, more soldiers than we could possibly have, an overwhelming force, we might not have a mitzvah to fight back at them. Okay? There's no mitzvah to fight a losing battle against overwhelming odds. Right? Sages point that out. It means that God just take the loss. The Nevi'im told them that. The sages told them that. You have to take the loss sometimes. But maybe they're waiting for us to stand up. I don't know. But it would be a sin to surrender any part of Eretz Yisrael to Ishmaelites or Amalekites and now to Edomites. It doesn't work. Okay. There you go. The only good that can come from anything Trump does is what we do. Let's test. Achashverosh, Koresh, Antiochus. It all depends on us. They declare their intentions. And the question is, how much are we going to put our trust in God? That's what this week's Parsha teaches. What happened at Yam Suf? God basically told Moshe Rabbeinu, back the people into a corner, not a corner. Put them in a place where they're surrounded, 2 sides wilderness, 1 side the sea, and the road back to Egypt, from whence they came. But they won't be able to just walk back to Egypt, even if they want to, because they're being pursued by Pharaoh's host. Right? Put them into the situation. That's what God said. Make the people wander around like they're lost, get them stuck in this place, and then Pharaoh's going to chase after them and just watch. Right? Going to make a big miracle. That was God's intention. Kind of strange that God did that. He wanted to put us into a situation where we would say, okay, God, what do? We're stuck. Okay? So that's basically where we've been put. God basically said, so look at this. Now we have America threatening you. See? Trump said, I'm going to take over Greenland. That's really nice. Threaten Denmark. We're just going to seize part of your territory, right? That's nice. Imagine you're the king of Denmark. That's kind of an insult to your face, right? Now he's saying to the Jews, he told the ostensible leader, the guys in charge of Eretz Yisrael, unfortunately, I'm going to take away part of your country, whether you like it or not. Now smile. Maybe it was his idea. Either way, it's evil. You can't go along with these things. So kudos to the usual Arabs who at least rejected it. Shtayim ochazim batalis, right? 2 people are fighting over talis. Zomer ani mitzasiya. Zomer ani mitzasiya. One says it's all mine. The other says it's all mine, right? So the Arabs, the usual Arabs, it means foreign ministers and dictators of various Arab countries around the world, what would they say to what Trump said? No, it's ours, right? And the Arab terror organizations, the PLO and the Hamas, they said, no, it's ours, right? Did any major Jewish figure say, no, it's ours? No, the prime minister of Israel is like, yeah, go ahead, take it. So if you have Shnayim Ochzin, one says it's all mine, one says, yeah, someone else could take it. Who gets the talis?
What happened to the Shua?
He doesn't even make a shvuah because this guy's saying no. The Arabs are pulling, say it's all mine, and the Jewish official response is, I'll let that third party take it. So he has no claim. That's it. The other guys get 100%. Okay? Did the leaders of the Haredi party speak out against this? Once again, it was only Feiglin said. Zohar Tzenu, no. It's great that you're going to expel my enemies. Okay? Who cares about that? He said, really, they're all chayiv misa, but getting rid of them is okay too. But giving the land over to, like I said, there could be some good could come of this. We pray that good could come of this. But the idea, the very Havamina, is against the Torah. And it shows we need Jews who can actually say, this belongs to us. Well, with all due respect, Mr. Trump, just like we're not going to say that Washington, D.C. belongs to the state of Israel or Klal Yisrael, right? Let them have what they have. But it's like what Yiftach said. What your God, Kamosh, has conquered for you, you shall have, told the king of Ammon. And what our God, the Lord God, has conquered for us, we shall have. That applies to Gaza also. What the Lord God has given to us, we shall have. It's not yours. And here you go. They're just like, yeah, sure. Prime Minister says, yeah, sure. I'll risk all my soldiers and, take it. Evil. Supreme evil.